Please join us in welcoming Matt Lee, of course, real estate guru. We like to get visits from him, and we're talking specifically about condos today. A lot of young people starting out when they first buy their property. It's going to be a condo, maybe retirees. Lots of advantages to owning a condo.
Absolutely. So when you go into the condo market and you want to say, okay, I'm very busy, or I don't want to do the outside work. I want to have a turnkey. You own the inside of that actual unit that you have. Outside of that is going to be covered with your condo fees, and you have to look at that.
Yeah, well, the advantage of having a condo is you don't have to cut the grass, you don't have the snow to shovel, you don't really have to do maintenance. However, the property itself needs that snow shoveled and the grass cut, so that's where maintenance fees comes in.
That's right, and you have a board that's managing this at all times, and normally you would have an engineer that would come in through the board probably once every 5 years, and they would look at the building just to say, okay, this is what we see coming up, whether it's a roof that's going to cost, $100,000. We want to make sure that that's going to be covered with the condo fees down the road. Or we see that there's balconies that need a little bit of work, so we want to make sure that we have to get somebody in to price that, so we know that we can include that in the condo fees. And that's why condo fees tend to go up. I mean, you want to make sure that it's covered, because if something happens where you're not prepared for, it is called a special assessment, and the whole building gets covered with it. So therefore, if there was something that happens where a roof starts to leak, they got $100,000. Basically, they go back and they say to every unit, we're going to have to charge you, $2,000, $3,000, and make sure that we get this roof covered, and the bill has to be paid.
There's a scary story in Ottawa, I know, a few years ago, where it was an older condo. It was like 23 stories, and it needed new exterior, new windows, new roof. It was just falling apart. Yeah. And basically, every unit owner was assessed at something like 40 grand.
Oh, yeah.
They'd all had to come up with, because it needed a lot of work.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is a lot of people were selling their condos at market value minus 40 grand.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So you look at it and you think, okay, as an agent, if I'm the broker that's going in to look at the building, and I think, okay, let's see how many units have sold in the last year. Because what happens in your agreement is that the lawyers, you get a lawyer, and hopefully a real estate lawyer, that actually goes and actually looks through the status certificate. So if all of a sudden a couple of deals have fallen apart, and you were doing the history on this building, you want to say, okay, let's get this to the lawyer as soon as we can, so that we can make sure that there's nothing that we're not seeing.
What are the red flags?
What are the red flags? If there's if we've seen 4 or 5 units that have sold in the last year, you think, okay, at least it gives you a good idea that, okay, that's giving the building faith, and it's still going to go to the lawyer. You're still going to make sure, but it's one of these things you want to make sure that you're pushing forward in the right direction.
Let's take a look at some pictures that you've provided.
Yeah, so we're looking at a condo building that you're just basically looking at the exterior of what the maintenance is going to be around these things. We've got the balconies. These are drawings of new buildings, so not really much going to be needed right off the bat. But pools, we have an indoor pool. So anybody that has an indoor pool or has heard about the cost of even a hot tub, even an outdoor pool, like they're expensive to run. So you want to know how expensive. Hallways, if hallways start to become dated, they're going to want to update them. They're going to want to put new carpets in. They're going to want to paint them. Yeah, absolutely. So parking, snow removal, any grass cutting, any curbs, any trees that need to come down, that's all part of the special assessment, because it is all outside. So therefore, you look at it and you think, okay, we want to make sure that there's enough money in the reserve fund that we can run a steady ship to make sure that everything is kind of being taken care of, plus we're going to have to look at what the extras are going to be as the building gets older.
Just one of the facts you have to deal with when you're living in a condo, especially an older building. I know my condo a few years ago needed a new elevator.
Oh yeah, okay.
And apparently the elevator was originally built, I think, in the early 80s, maybe the late 70s.
Okay.
And we found out now, for all the condo owners, that it was using parts that were used already.
Oh, okay.
And some of those used parts are not available now, so they had to gut the whole shaft, start over with a brand new elevator, and we were all assessed lots of money.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing when something like that happens. Exactly, the special assessment. These things come into play, so you want to make sure, when has the roof been done? When has the elevator been at least maintained, you know, and inspected. These different questions you want to make sure that are all taken care of, because that's kind of what the board does. They put it together, and it's saying, okay, let's keep ahead of everything so that we don't have these special assessments. Freak things happen, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
But you want to try to minimize that as much as possible.
Yeah, the good thing is I don't have to shovel. I don't have to.
No, that's right.
Let someone else deal with that.
It's turnkey, and I mean we deal with a city that has 2 hospitals, and it's a teaching university, and you know, you have these people that are, especially there, that are very busy. I mean, we see that as a market as well. They're in and out, and they're like, we don't have time. So. Okay,
Matt Lee, we thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Real estate tips brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.